What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan. I am here with my co-host, Dave Martinson. Dave, August, mid-dog days of summer. How you doing?
Bruce. I'm good, man. How's it going?
It's good. It's hot. The culture drought is still upon us. You know, just looking through our lineup today, we have a couple of interesting topics, but overall, I'm waiting for that fall meat and potatoes of new albums, movies, TV shows to be talking about. But we're getting by.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Keep getting up every day, people.
And to get there with us, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod to find all the ways to listen to the podcast, and give us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. It all greatly helps us out. Why don't we start talking about some music from some up and coming hip hop artists? One a little bit more established than the others. Start with P-Lo, Shine. What this is, mixtape? Is this a mixtape? Is this an album? Who knows?
Unclear for sure on this one. An album.
Yeah, I'm gonna say mixtape only because that's how it was on YouTube, but it could go either way. It's a Chance the Rapper type mixtape, I think.
Fair, yes.
P-Lo, part of the HBK Heartbreak Gang, from the Bay Area. Not too familiar with him. Obviously, I think he's a newer artist, as I think that group is fairly new as well, right?
So P-Lo as a performer is relatively nascent. He was more well known for being a producer for a while, but the HBK gang actually kind of made noise, I don't know, 5 years ago, because Sage the Gemini, who's in that gang, went viral with the song Gas Pedal. I don't know if you remember that song, Gas Pedal and Red Nose. These two viral hits, remember around that time, when Bobby Shmurda and people like that with just viral rap songs were really starting to happen at that time. And Gas Pedal was really one of those first ones to do that. But yeah, Sage and I Am Sue, who I feel like I see I Am Sue t-shirts on people more than I see or hear his songs these days. Those two, and then P-Lo were, I think, the faces of that crew. But yeah, they never really broke through beyond Sage's brief moment in the spotlight. So yeah, I think they're pretty under the radar artists all around.
From my count, at least going by Spotify, this seems to be his third album, I believe. P-Lo, last year's Prime being his most recent before this, and as you can probably tell by the review, I'm not super familiar with him. Dave, you obviously are a little bit more familiar. I was pleasantly surprised listening to this. It starts off with a really great, with the title track, which I thought was really great. And moving through the tracks, I felt like it had a decent flow to it. I was impressed with the way he kind of floated over a lot of the tracks on this. And I actually didn't look up. Did he produce this himself as well?
He produced lots of it. The P-Lo Time to Bring the Bass Down is his DJ tag or producer tag. So yeah, he's all over this, which I think is really one of the highlights because it sounds great.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is I think if anything, the production on it is probably the strongest part. What was your just like general thoughts? And let's pick a couple tracks to jump into.
Oh yeah, of course. So I think actually I really came into knowledge of P-Lo through his friendship collaborations with G-Eazy of all people, because G-Eazy is the biggest Bay Area act we have these days, but Bay Area overall as a contemporary scene is still pretty under the radar. People just don't think of it. We talked about the West Coast revival all the time. We talked about YG this year. We talked about Kendrick Lamar, everyone in the West Coast, Tyler, but we kind of forget the Bay, which always has had its own unique identity, as everyone knows, the hyphy movement. But after Mac Dre, after E40, after Too Short, who are these Bay artists, and SOBRB made noise last year. F the Pharaoh's pretty cool. Saweetie is from the Bay. But I feel like P-Lo and these HBK guys probably hold it down the best because this production that most of it's Pilo himself too, is just straight hyphy music, straight Bay Area bounce, and it's great. I think it sounds cool, and because Pilo's from the area, because this is his scene, his type of rap, he knows how to flow on these beats. And even if he was a producer first, and I still think he's a better producer than a rapper, I still think he's good as a rapper in this lane. So I think it's a really pleasant listen. I think at times it can be a little samey in the sense that his delivery, which I like his delivery, I like his flow, but it can get a little repetitive, I suppose. And his lyrics are probably down the middle, nothing too introspective, but it's a really effective hyphy vibe, which is uncommon in 2019 to say the least.
Yeah, that bounce is really apparent, and I think is what I enjoyed most about the record. Is it was just fun, jumping around from track to track. Shine, I think, is a really well produced and really bouncy track. The way it starts off just like catches you immediately. I like What It Takes a lot. I felt like that was like a really like more like low key, groovy, smooth track. And probably Sneeze and Love You kind of rounded out the top 4 for me on this. Really just found those to be the most catching. And again, that I think when this album's at its best is when you kind of are just bobbing along to it and you kind of just feel that energy flowing through the songs. And Pilo really impressed me with this. What were some of the tracks that you enjoyed the most?
Yeah, I liked Just Gang, track 4, like House with Mike Sherm, who I'm not familiar with, but he fit right in on that one. I like Type Beat. Type Beat actually came out on like a 3-track EP Pilo put out a few months ago. I think that one perhaps is like the crystallization of that bounce that he owns so well. I think, like, and as you said, some of these songs, some of these beats, they just really go. So you can really just bob your head to them. A lot of fun. A lot of these songs remind me of, I think the highlight from Prime last year was called Same Squad. Again, it's just this very distinct, type of production, and it's fun. So I think those are my highlights. Probably any other ones? Yeah, I think that those are the best ones. But I think I like the Kalani song as well. That's Sneeze. Kalani also actually a Bay artist. So, Pilo not gonna be a star. He doesn't make the type of music that's gonna go viral or anything. But it's cool to see the Bay still thriving. And Nef DeFaro actually, his friend, dropped a tape last week as well, same day as Stizz, and we're not reviewing that today, but he's another one that is interesting to watch. And just like SOBRB, there seems to be some new voices coming up, so it's just cool to see something already so distinctly of where it's from, like Pilo Shine.
Yeah, shout out Bay Area. Shout out, what's this, Texas cousin Stizz?
No, bro, Boston.
No, really?
He's from Dorchester. He grew up where my first apartment was, in Boston. Yes. Told you this.
Guys, homies? Are you two homies?
Yeah, we've met. No, we haven't met. But he's friends with Michael Christmas, the other big Boston rapper, and I have seen him before around here. So, yeah, no, he lives in LA now, as the past few years. But yeah, definitely the biggest, most successful Boston rapper ever, I would say. Cousin Sis. And then Joyner Lucas is from Worcester. Those are like the New England rappers. It's a short list.
Yeah, not a great list for Boston. Although Stizz, pretty respectable. Yes. Not somebody who I think has elevated to major status, but definitely has a lot of technical skill, and that's showcased in this new album, Trying to Find My Next Thrill. What was your relationship with Stizz prior to this album?
Yeah, he's an artist that I just came across the rabid fan base, loyal fan base that he has. I just kind of came across and I was like, oh, Cousin Stizz, I should check that guy out. It seemed like people really like him. I don't think I actually checked him out until maybe last year, 2 years ago. Suffolk County debut album. So literally there's your roots there. Manda. And then, sorry, those are the mixtapes. And then debut album came out in 2017, and then hear that, and that it was kind of like a growth album for him. Headlock with Offset, I think, is kind of the highlight of that. It's his biggest hit to date. And he was able to be a little bit more commercial on that first album with RCA Records without abandoning why he got so popular and had these fans, namely because he's like a really energetic guy that people like to believe in. Like he just kind of communicates his emotions about grinding really well, I guess. It's kind of hard to explain, but I was never like a huge fan. I like Headlock, I like some of his other songs, but I was looking forward to this album just because I think he's, as you said, a technical quality rapper that probably deserves to be a little bigger than he is, which is funny because he actually blew up when Drake, we've said this a million times to people, but Drake played his first real big hit at his birthday party like 6 years ago. And that's how people found out about Stizz for the most part.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like if you go back through all the podcasts, like every other one we're talking about, someone Drake has blown up in some way, by mentioning him, having him on a track.
Octavian, watch that review.
Very influential guy, that Drake. Stizz. Yeah, so I like you, I think actually I had only either like read a review about him, was intrigued by him as an artist, but not super tuned into him, obviously. This album I found to be super. I don't want to. I don't think one knows what I'm going for. I found it to be very like all on one level. I didn't feel like the energy went too high or too low at any point. That he kept it right around the same point. But it sounded so almost like simplistic. Like he wasn't trying to do too much with the production, but just kind of let his own rapping ability drive the album.
Minimalist.
Really, really impressive. What stood out to you about trying to find my next thrill?
Yeah, that's the question. Does something stand out that's different than what he's already done? Probably not. But as you said, he really likes minimalist, simple beats. He always has. And they allow him because I think his charisma on the mic, just his delivery of lyrics has always been pretty strong, and that allows him to he always like shows his work on his music, I suppose you could say. And on songs like STP, songs like So even if his delivery for the most part, as you said, is pretty down the middle, it's pretty like it's also it's a high floor the whole time. So if you're a Stizz fan, this is probably exactly what you wanted, but I don't know if there's a moment on this album that's like a highlight, like you listen to this song, you'll get it, like crystallization of what Stizz means to people. But it's more Stizz, both good and bad. So yeah, I think he doesn't totally jump out, but that sounds too negative. Like it's still quality all around. He hasn't taken like that next huge step forward. That way.
Yeah, what would you want to see from him to feel like he did take that step forward?
Yeah, well, he's a technical guy, and he seems like a really genuine guy too. That comes across in his music. So we could find a way to make that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's obvious let's make a commercial song that can go on the playlist so people find out about you. But that's not the kind of music he makes. So, I'm not sure what the path is to grow, to be honest, because he's already a very successful guy. Like I said, RCA Records, he's moved to LA, is where he worked. The debut album with RCA was the first time he had really worked with outside people, and now he's doing that again. So he seems like he's fully much in the industry, but he hasn't really changed the type of music he makes. So I think that's probably bodes well for his future success, just because he's probably happy making this kind of music. So he probably doesn't need my advice, but yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, what would you think? What would need to push him forward more?
Well, the song that I liked the most off this was Beeman. And
I think that's the highlight for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that right there is probably a bit of the hook. Is I know he's very minimalist, but I think maybe finding a way to infuse this, and maybe it's the Chicago sound, like that jazz infused hip hop. Maybe it's something just a little bit more, but I think when it goes from, because as I was listening to it, I was like, who does this remind me of? And I was thinking a little bit of 21 Savage, especially like the new album, because I felt like 21 Savage's new album was fairly minimalist in terms of like the beats weren't anything too crazy, but Savage just kind of was absolute fire on it. And I feel like maybe if he can find a way to bring that minimalistic style, but have little flourishes, and then kind of coupling that earnestness that I think he really harnesses well in his lyrics, could help him propel that next level. I mean, he also had like Smino on a song on this. Maybe finding some more people to collaborate with could help him out. I thought Freddie Gibbs was also decent on Toast to That.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's a couple avenues. I think I don't know how old he is, but he still seems to be
late 20s.
Trying some things. Maybe taking a couple more chances. Being with a major label will give him access to take some of these chances. Who knows? Well, like you said, I don't think he needs our advice, but just some thoughts on it. Someone that definitely doesn't need our advice. Hoodie Allen, staying in the Northeast, going from Boston to Long Island. Plainview, stand up.
New York City now.
Yeah, so Hoodie Allen, interesting guy. We reviewed his most recent album, I believe, prior to
The Hype, 2017.
The Hype, which we both really liked. Check out that review. And we both were fans of Hoodie Allen since our college days. You stuck with him. I kind of fell off, came back to him with the most recent album prior to Whatever USA. And Hoodie's really interesting because he's a really, really smart guy. Worked for Google, left to follow his music career. And I think as I'm listening to Whatever USA, still a super enjoyable album. I found this to be very catchy, and I think there's some steps forward here for Hoodie. But I think where I felt maybe, I don't want to say disappointed, but just kind of like, oh, okay, we're still here, is lyrically. There's, I think, some of the jokes and the catchy lyrics on here feel similar in terms of like structure and delivery to where Hoodie was, probably right after he was dropping, mixtapes like I'm Not a Robot and things like that. So I think this is a step forward in a lot of ways, but I still feel like there's some things, maybe some old ways of going about things that are holding Hoodie back. How did you feel about Whatever USA though?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. So this is really short, right? It's like 27 minutes or so. And despite that, I think there is a fair amount of different things. He sings a little bit more on this than he has in the past, but on what's that song towards the end? Hell of a time.
Yep.
I thought he sounded really good on that.
Yeah.
And he didn't come up as a singer by any means. But on songs like the title track, Whatever You Say, first track, you still kind of have that textbook Hoodie Allen rapid fire pop culture referencing punchlines. And in a sense, those have always dated his songs, Got Blazers, Aldridge, classic Hoodie Allen line from years past. Well, Marcus Aldridge has not been the Blazers in many years, but still a funny line. In this album, we get a reference to Zendaya, who's very vogue right now. And I don't think that song will go out of date anytime. We know Zendaya will be around a long time.
But we also got a reference to Bagel Boss.
Got a reference to Zion. There's a lot of, the moment things. Now, I think when he's at his best, it's really witty. I think my favorite instance of this is Let Me Pump the Brakes, Joe Budden with it, which is a deeper cut. Yeah. Girl, you pump me up, I'm yelling a scat it. Little Pump reference. But that's funny. It's amusing. But at the end of the day, he's always making it's pop rap. And that honestly, we don't really talk with pure pop rap all that often. Even people that mix their toes into this, like Drake or G-Eazy or something, they make other stuff as well, right? But Hoodie has, I think, kind of honed in on this is the type of music he makes. He's more than a rapper, not quite a full singer. At the end of the day, it's poppy, it's inoffensive, it's cruising music, cruising USA, the name of one of his tours. So, as you said, are there paths for Hoodie to keep going bigger? I don't know, and maybe he's not really trying to. This really did feel like a refinement of a lot of the growth he's shown in spurts on past projects, though. And it's not like I didn't love every song or anything, but I think on songs like Whatever USA, songs like 60 Seconds, Hell of a Time, I feel like these songs can kind of fit in that Hoodie canon, which is, I think a nice accomplishment for someone who's been releasing music for 7-8 years already. So
yeah.
Anything else stand out to you? Like a song or anything else? Anything about the sound?
Well, I definitely think the sound has matured a little bit. It seems like his palette is expanding a little bit in terms of how he's using different instruments on the songs. Like, I think there were some more horns throughout this. What I was reflecting most on, I think, was just where Hoodie Allen fits in. Because when I was looking for this album on Spotify, I had to actually search for it. When I usually just go to the new releases, scroll down, and I might have just missed this, so this might just be an oversight. But I didn't see it on the Friday release drop, and I was surprised because I feel like Hoodie Allen, in my mind, is always like a pop artist. Like he's fairly well known. He's obviously not at the top, but still people know who he is. And I was surprised to see Spotify maybe not giving him that look. I'm actually going to go back and search right now and see if maybe I just scrolled past it.
Well, that brings up an important distinction with Hoodie Allen, though, is that he's an entirely independent artist. Truly, he doesn't just have he doesn't have distribution. He doesn't even have a manager. He just has PR that he just hired. Other than that, everything's by Hoodie Allen. So by default, that lowers the bar for success for him. He doesn't need to accomplish as much to live a very happy and successful career with the way he's been doing. He's also based out of New York City, which is not the top choice for most active musicians right now. LA obviously is where most people want to go. And his biggest chart hit to date is All About It with his Ed Sheeran. That was a top 70 track 5 years ago. It would probably be nice for him from a career standpoint if he could link back up with Ed just to get a little boost again. But yeah, I wonder how much of that's really just Spotify is not receiving a check from Hoodie for superior placement, therefore they were not inclined to do so. But even still, there's only so many new releases. You think he would have been there because he does have a small but loyal fan base that is streaming the hell out of his music. He tweeted it did 1 million total streams the first day. That should be enough to put you on some kind of front page, right?
Yeah. I went back and checked. He is not on there still. And looking down, I mean, they put singles and things like that on there, but some of these artists, I have to imagine Hoodie Allen is more popular than Water Parks. I don't know. I figured you got me off with their heads. I don't know. Yeah, that was surprising to me, but I agree with your point about being an independent artist, and I think and this might be also a nostalgic association for where I was when I first started listening to Hoodie Allen, but I associate him a lot with early Donald Glover,
yes,
and yeah, just like that, pop punchline rap. And it's been interesting. I mean, obviously Donald Glover is a creative genius, and not saying Hoodie isn't. I don't think he's shown he has what Donald Glover has, and that's not a knock because no one has what Donald Glover has. But
not saying much there.
I'd like to see Hoodie Allen keep taking some chances similar to that and trying to mature a little bit, because I think he can be more than kind of like you were saying, just being the artist he is now. I think there's more potential there. So I'll be checking out Hoodie's next album and the one after that for sure. I'm in, but hoping for some more moving forward. Definitely check out some of these songs that we're going to be putting on to our Spotify playlist, Nowstalgia Best of 2019. The new songs that we've added are at the top now, so you can listen to what we're listening to right away. Why don't we jump into Glow Season 3? it was kind of weird thinking that this is the third season of this show.
Hmm.
I felt like it was only the second season in a lot of ways. The first two kind of meshed together in my mind.
Sure.
How did you feel about season 3 of Glow? Where was your temperature coming in, and then did it meet your expectations?
Yeah, so temperature coming in was warm. Let's say that, not boiling hot, not lukewarm, just a solid, summer heat. But Glow never made a top 10 list for me its first two seasons, nor did it for you. I think honorable mention, of course. I never had any big complaints about either of the first two seasons. I liked a lot about it, the performers, the storylines, all that, production value. But it never really like jumped out the way other shows jump out to us for the reasons that they do. We talk about that. Check those videos out. But Glow season 3 actually kind of like blew me away for considering my expectations going in. And this is, I think, is easily the best season of Glow, and the one I enjoyed the most, and definitely one of my favorite seasons of TV of the year. So yeah, I was quite pleased with this new 10 episode run.
Yeah, I was excited for Glow. It wasn't a show I was thinking about like, oh, I can't wait till it comes back. But when it got to be time and it was dropping, I was like, oh, I can't wait to jump back in and see where these characters are at. And I agree. I think this is by far the best season of Glow. The stakes are a little bit higher for the show, just in terms of the setting is not Middle America anymore. It's Las Vegas. It's they have more production value in terms of their shows, although not a ton more. But where it left me was I was, one, impressed, but two, a little bit concerned about the show moving forward. And we can talk about that, but overall, I think that this was an accomplishment for the show, and I think that it'll definitely get more nominations at the Emmys. What did you like about the show? It seems like this was a breakout, so to speak, for you.
Yeah, and it's funny. What I liked most about this show, I've seen some people, some reviews remark as a slight negative in the sense that there's less wrestling. The sport of wrestling, we see less of that action this season.
The sport,
and for me, that's a feature, not a bug. Full stop.
Yeah,
because the most enjoyable, rewarding thing about this show the whole time, for me anyway, has been these characters and how they interact with one another, their relationships. And I think in this season we actually get a lot more substantive stories and threads about the greater ensemble. The ensemble has always been impressive and talented, yet never fully explored truly, or always were supporting players. When Ruth, Debbie, and Sam, of course, are the core three. And they're still the core three this season. But we get a lot more for the other people, which I think is great because I like where the direction they went. And if that meant there was only really 3 wrestling scenes of consequence this time around, I'm okay with that, because we've seen the routine, and the fact that they're in Las Vegas at a hotel doing the same routine over and over again. We don't need to see that same routine over and over again as a viewer.
Right.
And what we get instead, obviously after the first episode, is episode 5, where they change rules, which was completely entertaining on its face, but also explored, finally pushed forward the exploration of stereotypes, characters that the wrestlers were playing, and then we get that, further in the next episode, Outward Bound. They go camping.
Yep.
And then of course the finale, where the Christmas twist, where Zoya is Scrooge. I mean, shit's great. So yeah, I liked so many of the stories and B plots this time around, and I thought almost all of them ended in a satisfying way. And again, they found a way to, I think, end you in a bit of a cliffhanger spot. So I think it's really satisfying. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think that is a major strength, is they tried to flesh out these side characters more. Do I feel like every single one was done successfully? No. I feel like some of them could have been fleshed out more. It could have been explored for longer in the show. And I think that that's kind of where my knock on this season comes in is the stuff going on with Ruth and Sam. I didn't really care about. I really like Ruth, and I'm very interested in her, and I like Sam as a character too, and I'm a lot more interested in his relationship with his daughter. But
Yes.
they're like, are they going to get together? Are they not? Not as interesting to me. And I feel like they could have used that time more economically to explore something like Cherry, who they touch on her potential gambling addiction in one episode, but it kind of either gets resolved or just isn't really talked about too much more. They don't really explore her feelings around what's going on with Keith other than they have this fight, they're separated, Keith's absent, then comes back at the very end. Those sort of things could have been explored a little bit more. Even Welfare Queen, I'm forgetting the actual person's name in it.
Yeah, for your name too.
Tammy or something like that.
Yeah, somewhat Tamay.
Yeah. She has this whole thing where, she's having this back issue and it's explored for a whole episode. And then they kind of come to the point in Outward Bound, like, oh, you could be a manager. Great. We never see it.
Right.
And I feel like this is the thing, they try to wrap up a lot of those in the final Scrooge episode. And I really liked that episode. It was a fun watch. But some of these storylines felt a little bit rushed. And I worry, especially now that it seems like Ruth is going to be going in one direction, Debbie going in another, and potentially Sam even in another direction, that the show's going to be jumping around so much that it's not going to be able to be, it's going to have to be really economic and well written with the time for each character in order to continue this. Now, it seems like some characters, like, I don't know if we'll continue following Carmen as she goes to wrestle with her brother. That might be really interesting. I hope we do. But that also might be her leaving the show. You don't know.
Yeah. Or she comes back at some point, as a supporting character. Yeah, I think even I think one of the biggest successful side stories with Sheila finding herself, coming to terms with herself and having personal growth, and her friendship with Bobby. Once she sheds the she-wolf persona and starts acting like a more normal adult, I guess, you don't actually see how that affects her in the ring.
Yeah.
The next time we see wrestling is when everyone's doing something different with the Christmas Carol story. So I guess that was a final thing they left untouched. But I think Outward Bound overall was really great, just because I liked how they discussed the Asian type that is fortune cookie, and how when Melrose, a white woman, is doing that kind of accent and being that character, it's not going to make a Chinese Cambodian person feel great.
Yeah.
And they do it in I think a tactful, smart way that doesn't feel super preachy, and they don't villainize Melrose either. And even Artie, to a lesser extent, her thoughts on the Beirut character are also mentioned, and how she feels a different way, where, so I think that kind of stuff was really smart. Also, Bash starts to break bad this season.
Yeah.
There really never was an antagonist, like a pure antagonist that remains on the show. And then Bash seems to be that figure. But then meanwhile, we get this really nuanced exploration of his experience as a closeted man. And they also don't really resolve that at the end. Meanwhile, you get this really propulsive sex scene in the middle of this. So I think a lot of these were really great, just because we've come to know these characters a lot. The first few seasons we had to do a lot of the setup and groundwork about what the show is, how it works, who these people are. But then we actually get to dig a little deeper on this.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And Justine, too, you mentioned, Sam's daughter. I think Britt Baron, I think she's magnetic. I think she's one of the best performers on the show. So I really hope we get to see more of the production of her film in LA. I think that's cool. But as you mentioned, you're worried about the spot or the show. And, I think Ruth is such an intriguing, compelling character because she does stuff all the time that makes her unlikable or just does annoying things.
Yeah.
And Debbie does that too. And that's why the relationship is so rich, because it's really complicated, right? Like Allison Brie's performance is always really great because she's bringing such life and such strength to this really deep character who has a hard time staying happy. And the divergent point in the finale is really interesting. And yeah, I'm really not sure what direction we go in moving forward, but I just hope the show gets to keep going. We haven't got a season 4 renewal, and it's become more commonplace now that Netflix would rather cancel its original shows sooner than later. OA, American Vandal, Dookie and Birdie, lots of beloved shows. Heck, OA I think was pretty well rated too. They just kind of get canned, and there are exceptions like Narcos and Stranger Things and The Crown, but overall, Glow has never been a huge ratings hit from what we know, and got less Emmy nominations this time around for season 2. So I'm actually kind of concerned that we won't get a season 4, which would suck because I really like where the show ended.
Yeah, and I want to see what happens next. And even with the concerns, I still really enjoy this show. So I do hope they get to finish it. I wanted to ask you, because we didn't really talk a lot about Debbie. How did you feel about Betty Gilpin's performance this season?
Oh, hell yeah. Great Debbie season.
Yeah.
I thought she was awesome.
Yeah. Seeing her come into her own as like the producer and kind of pull that deal out from under Tex at the end. I was like, hell yeah. Like, it was great to see that. Although I feel like the thing with her son, which I forgot what her son's name is.
Oh shit.
So it's like a stupid name. So I just felt like it was really dumb.
Yeah.
It's like Carl or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I feel like that basically they're like, oh, her son's here now. And then it was just like a way to get her and Tex to run into each other. And then we really never see him again.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I was like, damn.
His name's Randy.
Randy. Bad name. But no, overall, just a really strong season. There's so many characters to talk about. It's hard to kind of give them all justice in a review like this, but you find yourself rooting for all of them, even the ones who annoy you, even the ones who maybe you don't agree with, or the content might be a little dicey at times. You're just all in. Even Bash, it was like hard to see him be this asshole because he's not. And then of course you have the moment in the last one where he talks about wanting to be the son his mother wants, and like it's just heartbreaking. You have these moments where they really do a great job of writing these characters. So recommend Glow. We both do. Check it out. I'm wondering if you recommend this new show, Righteous Gemstones, on HBO. Stacked cast. I mean, when we're talking about John Goodman basically playing like a side, at least from the first episode, a side character, while Danny McBride, Adam Devine, and Edie Patterson get to kind of show out as his children of this mega church.
Joel Osteen looking ass.
Yeah, there is no shortage of talent for this show. But I turned it on last night and I saw it was an hour and 2 minutes. And I had a big sigh, dog. I was like, oh man,
I didn't expect this.
That's the thing. I was like 10 o'clock. Oh, those 10 o'clock shows have been an hour. I was like, nah, it'll be a half hour. They'll put something else on. No, doing an hour. How did you feel about this first episode?
Oh, I'm still in, obviously. This is the third HBO show from the Danny McBride, Jody Hill talent collective. Now they've brought David Gordon Green in as well. Eastbound, Principles, which we talked about on the show. Now, Righteous Gemstones. And I think what immediately jumps out about Gemstones is that the setting seems more exciting because we're around this super opulent mega church family. And as you mentioned, there's even more star power this time around. And it just seemed like there's a lot of great opportunity for hijinks, which is kind of what we want from a McBride Hill show. And we know Walton Goggins is coming as well, who was fantastic as a foil for McBride in Vice Principals. So yeah, I'm all the way in. I like the premiere a lot. I think it did a fair amount of setup, and even if we advance the insinuating conflict with this video that progressed more than I thought, namely these blackmailers getting fucking killed.
Yeah.
I'm still in. I thought it was effective setup.
Yeah, definitely effective setup, and also kind of shocking. I didn't see the death coming at the end, and then when fucking Danny McBride as Jesse just backs up into the guy, literally to the point where he has to like swerve the car around him.
Serpentine, dog. Getting away from this.
Yeah, right. It was pretty shocking, but I'm definitely in. The thing that I think I like the most about this is the setup is fine and all. I really enjoy when Danny McBride has like those little moments where he goes back to just being Danny McBride, but like when the blackmailers come in the van for the first time, they're like circling him, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?" Like that sort of stuff more than anything like makes me laugh. Or like when they're watching the video for the first time with like his friends, and they're like, "Who is that?" He's like, "That's me." They're just like, "Oh god." And then, Adam Devine afterwards is like basically like making fun of the guy for having a small penis. Just like the whole thing is hilarious. HBO did it again. It's like you said, quality team to be working on this. How did you feel about like the John Goodman kind of being off to the side in this a little bit?
I mean, I kind of expected that, to be honest. He's just probably on set less, given this character. But just having John Goodman's presence on TV, when was the last time that happened? I don't even know. Like the Connors, I guess. He's been on TV recently. But yeah. He's just such a magnetic presence. Obviously, we don't need to talk about why John Goodman's great, but he's also very believable as a wealthy father of two guys that are great at paying assholes.
Yeah,
Bride and Define, and also Edie Patterson, who was magnetic, a standout on Vice Principals. I'm glad she's back again too as their sister, because they have great chemistry. And yeah, like Eastbound, like Vice Principals, these shows are just about male assholes, right? Like that's kind of the ethos of the McBride Hill enterprise. And along the way, it's really funny. Like it's just funny shit. And we talk about a lot of comedies, that some comedies have a lot of ambition, or just really, really smart writers room that really try and tackle stuff like Veep or something. And this, I mean, they got a good writers room too. These guys know their way on the script and the pen and stuff, but they're not afraid to just be like raunchier and perhaps more juvenile at times. And it's kind of refreshing, I think, just because they're ultimately really charming dicks. And I like being around them.
I feel like they need this to be fast. I don't know about fast, but they need it to be well paced, because like we both said, an hour is a big ask for a comedy at this point.
No question.
I think that is the thing I'm most concerned about, is if this thing, if it has a lull, or doesn't necessarily find its footing for a little, for certain stretches, it could be the kind of thing that falls by the wayside for a lot of people. So I have confidence in them that they'll figure that out. But if they want to just make it 30-minute episodes and just give us more episodes, I'm fine with that too. Like, cut it down, smaller chunks. Any last thoughts on this before we move on?
Yeah, at least in the premiere, I mean, when I'm trying to glean a lot from a little here, but they didn't openly mock or villainize evangelical Christians, televangelists. Obviously they're based on those famous people, that husband and wife, forgot their names, Batker, something like that. They didn't mock Christians, which is kind of an easy thing to do in the liberal sphere that is Hollywood. And they don't even make this in Hollywood. They shoot this in South Carolina. But I like that there wasn't any immediate judgment passed. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, they obviously are writing over the top humor, like McBride's wife asks if she can speak during the fight. And like that's obviously lampooning this kind of male-dominated, traditional values thing. But we'll see. We'll see if that continues. But I feel like they're approaching this obvious
Tactfully.
Satire with some tact so far.
Yeah, no, I agree. Although I did really like McBride's son in this, just how like antagonizing he is to his dad.
Also, his name's fucking Pontius. Of all the tribal names, come on.
That's good stuff. Blinded by the Light, Bruce Springsteen type movie.
Bruce.
Gurinder Chadha?
Chadra?
Where is it? Chadha, I think.
Chadha, the director of Bend Like Beckham.
Yeah. Directed Blinded by the Light, this movie based on music by Bruce Springsteen and the memoir of Sarfraz Manzoor, who was a Pakistani Londoner.
Side note, when at the end of the credits, when you see the picture of the real guy, did you not think he looked like a Pakistani Mark Ruffalo? Because that's what I saw.
I did for a second.
Yeah.
I was like, I was with my girlfriend Julianne, who loves Mark Ruffalo, and I was like, "Yeah, it looks like a little bit like Mark Ruffalo." And she didn't see it, but I thought so.
That was an offensive thing to say to her, I'm sure.
So following Yesterday, which is the obvious comparison for this movie, a story that uses music by a famous artist to tell its story. Obviously, a little bit more ingrained in Yesterday as a plot device. This a little bit more as an explaining device, I think, in this movie, at least internal and emotional explaining. You texted me this, so I want to give you credit for it. Bruce ain't the Beatles, man, and that's kind of how I felt about this movie. It was good. It was good, and especially the second half. There's a scene where they put on Born to Run. And they shut the radio station. They run around London.
Fuck Tiffany.
Yeah, and they're having a good time. From that point on, the movie really picks up for me. But prior to that, I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be another tough hour to get through." And I found myself somewhere in the middle, where I didn't think this was a bad movie, but I also don't know if I agree with the praise it's gotten from what was it? It wasn't TIFF, right? It was at Sundance. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned Yesterday, the obvious comparison, the most recent musical film, and not a musical story about music. And that obviously has the super high concept, what if people forgot the Beatles after this one guy thing, right? We don't have that. This is a much more conventional coming of age story, as you said, based off a biopic from a British Pakistani fellow. And it's really conventional, I think, to a fault at times, because I think a lot of the supporting characters are quite thin in terms of there's not really much added to them. What you see is what you get. You're familiar with these types of archetypes before. The dad, the mom, the sister, the bullies, the DJ at the school, all that stuff. Nothing was the politically minded love interest, all that stuff. But I can't help but be impressed with just how charming the movie is. And what's the name of the lead? What's the lead actor's name again? Plays Javid.
Javid. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes here.
This is his first big screen role, and I think at times, perhaps maybe in the beginning when he's trying to ask to just read lines and there's no like really big set pieces yet, it kind of shows that he's a bit of a neophyte as an actor. Hamesh Patel in Yesterday, I think was one of the strengths of Yesterday, even though ultimately we thought they really punted on that premise, which was really intriguing on its face. Watch that review for more on that. But I said, I think Blinding by the Light is just really charming, and I think the key thing that it needs to do right, which I think is what it does, is it communicates why some people are really into Bruce Springsteen, especially people from this time in the 80s, late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who is not a Bruce Springsteen person at all, like I know his hits, I like his hits, but like my parents never played it growing up, so I was never really exposed to a lot of his deep cuts or anything like that. The way they really focus and honed in on the lyrics of Bruce throughout this movie, and I mean they play 17 different Bruce songs. That's a lot to license, and showing the lyrics, like actually like the physical words in front of you while he's listening to the songs and trying to really show you why or what he's feeling and why the song is getting him through that. I think that works. And if it didn't work, then the movie really wouldn't work at all. But I think that gets through. And as you said, in the second half, it really starts to pick up. And it's kind of just one of those, those feel-good movies. And apart from the display of the lyrics, there's nothing else that's super unusual or standoutish about the movie. But I also don't think anything was super offensive either. Like, I think the dad, even though that's a character that you've seen before, they really do their best to not totally villainize him, and the performance is pretty good as well. Even Haley Atwell, who has a really thankless role as
Eliza,
the supporting teacher.
Oh yeah.
She's still good just because it's Haley Atwell. She's a talented performer.
Yeah,
and
she's awesome.
Yeah. So I thought it was good. I liked it more than yesterday, and it really just kind of made me think about it. In the past year or so, there's been a lot of movies about music.
Yeah, there have. So the actor's name is Vivek Kyra.
First April.
Yeah, and like you said, I think his performance was pretty middling, which is hard when it's your first big role to take on something where there's so much, and pretty much every scene revolves just around him. Mm-hmm. I think there were some really cringeworthy ways that they worked Bruce Springsteen in, like, and this was the way he was, and sometimes high schoolers are like this. But when he's like reading lyrics off, or like reciting them to each other,
yeah.
I was like, I almost had to look through my hands. I was feeling so awkward watching that sort of stuff. I think where I started to feel like the movie really picked up though was when the conflict started to bubble to the surface with the people in his life, whether it was his friend Mark or his dad. I think the first hour or so is a lot of him just kind of like brooding, it's a tough hang for a little bit. And then also it was very frustrating later on when he has the fight with his dad, where his dad rips up the tickets, right? And then his first instinct is to go and to throw everything out, and then he decides he's gonna like leave home. It was frustrating to me to see him like even move towards like the wine to like throw stuff out at first, because I was like, dog, you've moved past this, like you found your voice. This doesn't feel like it's what you
writing since you were 9,
like, right? Why would you
guy?
Yeah. Now that was dramatized a bit and not actually how it was for Sarfraz, although sure, he did have the whole fight with his dad about stuff. And Eliza, his girlfriend, was totally manifested for the movie, wasn't actually allowed to date in real life. Sure. But I think that was a fine ploy to kind of rope in some of the more political things going at the time, and kind of the overall message of the things Bruce Springsteen was singing about were things actually meaningful at the time. What were your favorite like musical cues or songs in the movie?
I mean, you said Born to Run. That's the obvious highlight.
I thought Thunder Road was pretty good when he's singing to Eliza.
I liked Hungry Heart as well. That's just reminded me. It's like Hungry Heart was one of those songs I didn't even know is a Bruce song for the longest time. It's just a song I recognized. I was like, that's Bruce Springsteen too? Oh, yeah. Okay. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the songs are like quick drop-ins. You don't hear the whole thing or anything. And Unlike yesterday, he's not performing the songs unless he's reciting the lyrics. But usually when he's reciting the lyrics, it's just spoken word for the most part, or at least it starts out that way. But yeah, as you said, the scene at the outdoor shopping area where he just kind of starts going, and then his buddy's dad joins in, who's a great time the whole time, and that was fun. And it kind of dips his toes into these like more surrealist scenes where like everyone's dancing and stuff and running around, and again, that's when the movie's just really, I think, the most carefree and the most fun. But
I agree.
Overall, I did enjoy it. I agree. It takes a little while to get going.
Do you think that, because I mean, it's sitting at right now 90% Rotten Tomatoes. It's pretty high. Do you think that's where I guess it should be, quote unquote, for this movie?
Well, here's the thing. It's like this movie has the ambition of being a conventional coming of age story, and it achieves that, then thus positive review. Yesterday proposes this concept that it does not act on, and ultimately is a pretty traditional rom-com at the end of the day. Negative review. And expectations and ambition go a long way into how people will receive your movie.
Yeah.
And I think Blinded by the Light is perhaps a little simpler than other films of its ilk, and it perhaps just glosses on the headier themes. I mean, fuck, there are neo-Nazis in this movie, the National Front. But for what it sets out to do, I think it does achieve it. And that's probably why it's getting a lot of positive reviews.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a really good point about how the expectations set it up for failure or success. Seems to be a theme today, kind of talking about Hoodie Allen as well. Any last thoughts on Blinded by the Light?
Shout out Dean Charles Chapman, our good friend, sweet Tommen Baratheon, doing perhaps a polar opposite performance as this womanizing, aspiring rock star British kid. I thought he was pretty funny when he's, and honestly, one of the best jokes in the movie is when they're making fun of him when he says "synths are the future."
Yeah,
great meta joke.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us this week. Go watch Glow, Righteous Gemstones. What do we got next week?
Next week, Taylor Swift, Lover, big album. Will it be good? Well, I ain't like any singles yet, so probably not. But we'll talk about it regardless. Also, Brockhampton's dropping Ginger, their 5th studio album, and Rhapsody, fresh off a Best Rap Album nomination with their last record, back again with a new album. And Mindhunter Season 2, which came out last Friday, we will be diving deep on the Manny Berkowitz of it all. And Disney's D23 Expo might lend some unforeseen developments that we will talk about as well. So plenty to talk about, even as the summer deluge is coming to an end.
Nowstalgia Best of 2019 on Spotify, soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod to find all the ways to listen to the podcast. And go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We love you. Peace out.